Hi, Substack friends. Thank you so much for being a paid subscriber. I just want to say that because I really mean it. Your subscription makes this possible for me to make some time in my schedule to, carve this out. So, anyway, I was going to do these things live, but I'm actually just going to do videos because I feel like they're better received that way and we're more likely to get, participation. When I don't request it. So anyway, um, today I wanted to talk a little bit about two things. The first one is about a book that I'm reading right now. I'm in a book club with some really awesome ladies, and my running partner is an avid reader. She always gives me the best book recommendations. Thank you, Kate. And we're reading this book called Look Again. And I'm trying to like speed through the book right now because I only have a few days before book club. And of course, I'm only like halfway through. But I just got to this chapter on misinformation. And just to like kind of orient you very briefly to this book, it's about habituation and how we get habituated, and that can be a positive in some ways, right? Like if we weren't habituated to things, life would be really hard because we would have to make so many decisions, or everything would feel like really new and like, how do we get through this sort of thing? But habituation can also sort of like dull the lens on life a little bit too, when we just don't see the freshness and the novelty of things. So I wrote my Substack on that too. So if you're interested on hearing a little bit more about the book and you haven't read the Substack, there's a recent entry on habituation from last Friday. But this chapter on misinformation discussed how when we see something a lot, that we start believing it. And as a dietitian, I see this all the time, I mean, this happens to me, right? I'll see something a lot and I start to believe it without doing my research, without trying to wonder, is this true? Without even maybe personalizing it to myself. And I want to use the example of protein recommendations. So protein is obviously, we talked about this in our last video, like the nutrient that can do no wrong. And everybody is supposed to be eating at least their body weight in protein. Okay, that's not true. Um, but we're seeing the conversation about protein everywhere. At least I feel like I am. We're seeing protein on labels more often, like being called out on the front of packaging. We might be having more conversations about protein with our friends because one of our girlfriends makes the comment that she's trying to get more and she's putting it in this smoothie, or she likes this protein drink or whatever. So you're not really asking for that, but it's just kind of coming, it's being filtered in, it's being given to you. We're seeing the conversation on social media, 10 ways to get more protein into your breakfast, right? So it's just everywhere. And when something is everywhere, we start to believe it's truth without really thinking about it so much. So in the book, they talk about the importance of, if it's something that you're hearing over and over, and maybe it's also something that you're wondering about for yourself, maybe do a bit more research. Figure out if this is evidence-based, like where are the sources? And also, is this information for me at my stage of life? For my gender, for the level of activity that I'm doing, just kind of questioning things and pausing and not taking things at face value. So I found that to be a really interesting reminder of, if we're seeing something everywhere, let's check it and make sure that that thing is true for us, if that's something that we're wanting to adopt or look at for ourselves. So speaking of that, I'm going to talk about creatine. It also might be something that you're seeing everywhere. And perhaps this is why I'm even bringing it up, because I've seen it everywhere too. But I've also tried it and I also use it. And I've also seen that it brings me some success in life. So I'm going to talk about creatine for women and active women. So, pretty much all of you, if you're watching this video, you are probably most likely an active woman. So there's that. So creatine is a natural substance made by your body. It has 3 different amino acids: arginine, I think, methionine, I can never say that one. I'm not even going to try. Methionine, and arginine, methionine, and lysine, I think. I'll have to look it up. Don't quote me on that. I just literally had to know this information for a creatine panel I was on, but it just left the brain because that's also what happens in perimenopause. So anyway, creatine it's made by the body. You also, if you eat animals, if you eat, chicken, if you eat fish, if you eat beef, you take creatine in, you eat it. Women tend to have 70 to 80% less or lower creatine stores compared to men, for various reasons, having less muscle mass, not eating as much meat, having the organs not produce as much. So why would someone take creatine? Like, why is this a very popular supplement that's being discussed right now? So if you remember back to biochemistry, maybe you didn't have to take that, lucky you, but you might have learned about something called ATP. So ATP is like the energy currency for our cells. Our brain requires ATP. Every cell in the body needs energy. And in order to produce energy, we have to break down ATP to get that energy. Well, creatine, in its form of creatine phosphate, donates a phosphate to ADP to produce ATP. So we just have more capability of producing fast, quick movements because that's what ATP does. It's like when you lift a weight and you've got that repetition that happens really fast, that requires that ATP energy source for muscle contraction. So creatine is mostly used in the strength-based world. You're not going to see it used so much if like we're talking about endurance-based sports. But when something is necessary for quick action, like a sprint, for example. So if I go for a run and for whatever reason, this doesn't happen very often, I decide that I want to sprint at the very end of that run, ATP or creatine would be a wonderful resource to have more of that on hand. So why would we take it as women? Well, if I'm strength training and creatine allows me to have a better workout because I have more energy accessible to fuel that workout, then I'm going to be able to work out a little bit harder every time. And also it's been shown to be very helpful for recovery. So if I am getting to my third or my fourth set and I have low creatine stores, I might not be able to push as hard as I could be or recover as fast. But if I've got more creatine and I've got ample sources, I can recover faster and I can push a little bit harder in that third and fourth set, which long term creates the ability to add lean mass more efficiently. So it helps with power and strength. It helps us potentially with adding more lean body mass. And some emerging evidence is showing that it may be helpful in brain health as well as bone health. I recently did a presentation for physical therapists on concussions, and I have 3 boys, so I've already dealt with some concussions in my world. And creatine and having a little bit on board for that because the brain uses ATP too. Now, we don't have dosage. That research is still very new. So I don't have recommendations on how much you should take to support brain or bone health. So we're going to stick with the doses here for muscle health. So there's a couple different ways to take creatine. Number one, you definitely want to take it every day, even on the days that you're not strength training, because it's not about having it on board for that workout. It's about building up the stores over time and having it accessible when the body needs it. It doesn't really matter what time of the day to take it. It's really about when any supplement, I need to take it when I can remember to take it, right? So that's the most important thing, is just remembering to take it. The typical dose for most people is a scoop, which is around 5 grams of creatine. And so that's often what I recommend. But if you do want to titrate it to your body weight, there are also recommendations out there that say you could take zero point 0.1 grams per kilogram of body weight. So you would need to divide your weight by 2.2 and multiply that times 0.1 to get the precise recommendation for your body size. So I do put mine in my water bottle when I lift, but I also, on the days that I run, I just kind of take it at some point during that day. And it's a very safe supplement. It has been studied. It's one of the longest studied supplements out there. So really, to me, the only downside is money. It costs money, right? So that. And then number 2, sometimes I'll get a little bit of GI upset. It doesn't last long. It's not that big of a deal for me, but that's just something to consider. Um, it does cause the cell to swell a bit, right? So it's more of a hydrated cell. The creatine kind of draws water into the cell. You've got more of a hydrated cell, which is great for an environment of building more muscle. So in the beginning, when your body is getting adjusted to that, there might be the ever so slightest change in weight if you weigh yourself, which I don't recommend anyway, but if you do, you might notice that. That is okay. That is just water. And believe me, the pros of taking this supplement very much outweigh any very small amount of weight gain that might happen. I think that that's all. I think, just always when we take supplements, we want to make sure that they are third party tested. Looking for like USP on the label or NSF or good manufacturing process. Those are all things that I'm looking for when I'm evaluating a supplement, that it's been third party tested. Okay, I think that's it. So in summary, creatine is a great supplement for women who are trying to support their strength and to support their workouts in the gym. I do need to say this. Creatine is not going to work if you're not lifting weights, right? You're not going to be able to build muscle with creatine and protein only. We have to have the stimulus from the strength training. We have to have adequate calorie consumption. We have to have adequate carbohydrate consumption, not just protein. We need carbohydrate to build muscles too. And then we need protein. And then we can benefit from some creatine. So you can see it's far down the line here. So anyway, I hope that answers your questions on creatine. Please feel free to respond to this video, put questions in the chat. I really want to try to do a better job of being more connected on Substack with those of you all who have questions. But thank you again for being a part of this community. I love having you here. And ping me if you want me to do videos on any questions that you might have. I'm happy to speak to questions that come up for you. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.